it was a different time.
Are you talking about the same comic I'm talking about? Are you talking about this comic, the multi-Eisner and Harvey Award-winning revolution of Jim Steranko, one of your idols, Benjamin said, a criminal masterpiece?
He has this
All right.
very organic way of drawing humans.
Nipple.
And he bridges the gap between same face syndrome and utterly unique characters in a way that my brain can't work it out, because my brain automatically goes, Eduardo Risso drew that. So Eduardo Risso is there. He has a remarkably distinct style. I would say that it is a noir style in the extreme. It is noir storytelling to a T. It's based on those films. Loves a nipple, loves an ass.
Lots of nipples.
Look, this ran for 100 fucking issues, Michael. This went from 1999 to 2009. Welcome back to Collecting Issues, where this week we'll be reading 100 Bullets, Volume 1, collecting issues 1 to 5 of the 1999 Vertigo Comics series from Brian Azzarello and Eduardo Risso.
So the comic book education continues?
We're talking inappropriate comic books.
You're into comic books, aren't you?
That's comic book shit.
Like in the comic books.
Oh, very good, Benjamin. Now, bear in mind, it was a different time. Now, Benjamin, welcome back, everybody, to Collecting Issues, the monthly comic book club, where, it being 2026, you do have to bear in mind that 1999 was a different time. Benjamin!
Different time.
Different time. Collecting Issues is a monthly comic book club, so this is going to be chock-a-block with spoilers and comments and criticisms. So, look, go read the comic first. We're reading 100 Bullets, the first collected volume, first shot, last call. Benjamin, very humorously, most of the collected volumes of this have the number of the collection in the title. So it's
very
first
humorous
shot because it's the first issue. Isn't that very good? Anyway, Benjamin, it was a different time. Do bear that in mind.
Oh, Michael.
Ben, any other bloody housekeeping to get out of the way before we talk about how much of a different time it was?
Look, trigger warnings for some interesting racial depictions.
Very interesting.
Very
trigger late 99s.
Trigger warning for wild choices in dialogue, Michael.
Oh, yeah. Ben's going to read them out for us. Don't worry.
Yeah, I'm going to do voices.
He promised me before he's going to do the voices and the accents.
Yeah. Oh, look, Michael, it was, as you said, a different time.
It's a different time, Ben. Different time.
Different
Benjamin,
time.
Different time. Multi-Eisner and Harvey Award-winning 100 Bullets. Benjamin, you tell us what that means for us all, because I haven't a clue what that means.
The Eisner Awards are the comic book equivalent of the Oscars, Michael.
Oscars
the Eisner
of comics.
Awards are named after legendary comic creator Will Eisner, creator of The Spirit and the much lauded Contract with God one-shot story that was illustrated many years ago, considered to be one of the founding fathers of comic books as a serious medium, if you like, was Will Eisner. So they named an award ceremony after him. And every year they come in there and they nominate best art, best comics, best runs. Lots of different things get nominated in there. And as you said, Michael, 100 Bullets has swept the Eisner Awards over the years.
A lot over the years, pretty much in those first couple of years. Ben, can I give a bit of context here? Are we skipping ahead too far if I talk about my personal context with this comic? Because I think it's relevant.
Yes, I think it is.
So, Benjamin, this came out in 1999, before you were born, alas. So you won't have had the same relationship with this comic that I did. But when I was a young fella, Benjamin, when I was 16 or 17 in 1999, and I was reading comic books, and I was getting most of my comic book information, not from the nascent internet, but indeed from Wizard magazine.
Wizard magazine, Michael.
Wizard magazine. Now, Benjamin, I've none surviving to this day, so I wanted to have a look over some Wizard magazines. But it's hard to overemphasize how big a thing 100 Bullets was when it came out. And it was such a big thing. And it was promoted so heavily as like nothing else in comics, like nothing you've ever read. A gritty crime story verging on the supernatural, full of mystery and danger. And it was presented as so different, it actually put me off. So I was hearing so much about how great this was. I went, oh no, that's not for me. Give me a bit of Spider-Man. Give me a bit of the X-Men. I wonder what Rogue's up to. Now, Benjamin, I was 16. But when I was 16 or 17, this simultaneously passed me by whilst being the biggest thing that was going on in comics in the late 90s.
Sure.
So I don't know how we had this conversation, but you and I were talking about things to read the other day, and I said to you, you know what? I've never read 100 Bullets, despite the fact that for 10 years this was the biggest, most innovative, most talked about. Now, Benjamin, I wasn't talking comics with friends, because you didn't do that in the late 90s, because that was a surefire way to get your lunch money stolen.
So get a bullying.
You'd get a nuggie. Or maybe a wet William. Bill Eisner would come to your house. He'd wet his 2 fingers and he'd stick his 2 fingers in your ear. That's where the term wet William comes from. Ironically enough, the same William who created the comics. But anyway, I don't know in reality if people were talking about this, but the comic book media of the late 90s, and by which I mean Wizard Magazine and a couple of forums, this was revolutionary. What do you say to that? Now, you weren't alive, but what do you say to that?
So there's a few different things that were going on at that time, Michael, I suppose, that would have shaped this as... The way I would react to that, Michael, I was born then, unfortunately. I was but 8 years old in 1999. I wasn't reading the likes of 100 Bullets. That wasn't happening at the time.
But were you hench as shit? Were you a hench as shit 8-year-old?
I was bench pressing bottles, Michael. I had 2 baby bottles on either side of a Swizzler stick that you mix your coffee with.
Yeah.
All day.
Of course, there was no coffee in Ireland in 1999, Benjamin. It was a grand cup of tea back then.
They were filled with cups of tea, Michael.
Yeah.
Apologies for that bizarre
what are we doing?
ramble.
Comic book podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, Ben and I haven't seen each other in an unusually long time, so this might be a little bit random as we attempt to make each other laugh. Sorry, Ben. Comic books, 90s, what was going on? Late 90s. The Matrix.
I think there's a lot of stuff going on here. I think this is a very cinema-influenced comic. And what I mean by that is, Michael, the 90s was the wave of neo-noir. It was the wave of 2 guys with guns. That was a big popular movement in 90s movies. Things like Pulp Fiction, things like Reservoir Dogs, things like The Boondock Saints. There was a lot of that going on. And
The Matrix.
The Matrix was a big one as well,
The Dark
Michael.
City.
The Dark City. But at the same time, Michael, there was... And I have to tread carefully here. It was the era of Spike Lee. It was the era of Juiced. And the 90s was the hip-hop era.
Yeah.
And for better or worse, leaning on the latter, I think Brian Azzarello may have absorbed an awful lot of that at the time.
I see what you're saying.
I think what's happened is, and this is, Brian Azzarello is a respected creator in
multi-Eisner
comics.
And Harvey Award-winning comic, Ben.
He's a big deal. But, Michael, and I think this is especially true for issues 1 to 3, which are 100 Bullets, which take place in the American ghetto, as it were.
The American ghetto. Is the American ghetto, Benjamin, not where we're going to put Americans when they start fleeing to us?
Okay, let me rephrase it, because that's pretty poor. Right?
Yeah. It'll be in City West, most likely, Benjamin. We'll just put all the Americans over there.
Socioeconomically deprived. Yeah, then you won't hear blip out of anyone in City West, because it's all white people that are held in City West at that point. And we won't mind that. That'll be grand.
Yeah, that'll be grand, yeah. To use our racist analogies from this period. Benjamin, this is not set in the American ghetto. It's set somewhere specific. Where is it?
God damn it, Michael. It's in LA.
We probably should know this.
It's in LA. No,
is it LA?
It's in LA.
I think it's probably LA.
LA? Yeah, because it's set during the Crips and Bloods, except Brian Azzarello calls them Kings. Kings and something else. So, look, I think Brian Azzarello, a much younger man at that point, Michael, probably absorbed all of that. And yeah. God, Michael.
So
as
what
you
you're
said,
saying, Benjamin, what you're saying is it's American hip-hop Latino gang culture, but filtered through the eyes of the media from that time.
yes.
So you're
and
saying
the
this
white
is a
man's
second...
understanding of
it's-
that media.
Benjamin, as we know you hate the white man, but this is a second-hand source rather than a first-hand source, is what you're saying. Brian Azzarello wasn't living in the hood. And
That's what
whatever about
that's what
Brian
I took from
Azzarello's
it.
ethnicity, yeah, that's irrelevant. But he wasn't living in the situation. These characters and these depictions are, you reckon, because we haven't interviewed Brian Azzarello, I'd like to know this.
I haven't.
But are these based on people he knew growing up or experiences he had growing up, or are they based on movies, basically?
No, I don't think in any world we could say that these are based on real life experiences, Michael, because I think this is the greatest fucking hyperbolic representation of America that I've come across in
Benjamin,
years.
but this is the amazing thing. This was seen when it came out as grounded and realistic and grim and gritty.
No.
No, it was.
No, sorry. I believe you. I believe you very much. But to be very clear, Michael, this is a second-hand source absorbed, hyper rendered version of Americans' cities.
Now,
I
is there
Go
anything
on.
to be said for the fact that we've only read the first two short story arcs? And
yeah, absolutely.
my understanding is I haven't read 100 Bullets, Ben. This is my first exposure to it in the sense of like direct first-hand reading it rather than reading reviews of it or reading opinion pieces on it.
Yeah.
But you would be forgiven for thinking this is set in a grim and gritty Fast and Furious universe of Latino gangs. Because that is very much the first 3 to 4 issues. Maybe it's 3, maybe it's 4. I think it's 4. Maybe it's 3. But it isn't all like that. The second one switches to Nick from New Girl working his dead-end job in a bar. And
If he got done for child pornography. Yeah.
Yeah. Grim and gritty.
Yeah. Sorry, trigger warnings for that as well, folks. Probably should have mentioned that at one point. There's nothing graphic within the comic.
No,
but
it's
a
not
central
even,
plot line of
really
the second
approached.
arc.
It is. And I think an interesting thing on that is at no point, now maybe this might have been my reading, but at no point is it even implied that he was dodgy. But
yeah, no, he's not. He's clean as a whistle.
Without wanting to get into characters and stuff later, I think that's a remnant of every middle-aged man's fear from the birth of the internet. Someone's going to put something on my computer, or I'm going to be accused of such and such because I don't understand computers. But we'll get to that later.
So I think what's probably interesting about this, Michael, is that the radically different tone between issues 1 to 3, which are named 100 Bullets, and they are the first shot, centered around Dizzy, and it is very much based in the gang culture of LA and hip-hop narratives of that time, hip-hop movies of that time. Issues 4 and 5 are from an arc called Shot Water Back, and it is every dive bar film that came out in the 90s. And again, that was a huge cinematic mini genre, if you want to look at it that. Down on your luck Americans in dive bars planning crimes or just getting by. Do you know what I mean? They probably would have been played by Harry Dean Stanton. If they had adapted this comic in 1999, Harry Dean Stanton would have been Lee Dolan or Dolan. Lee Dolan.
Yeah. Now it would be Timothy Oliphant, but then it would have been Harry Dean Stanton.
Absolutely. And I think that radical difference makes this difficult for us to tackle because to me, it comes off as the rough work of an early comic creator who's being lauded. And it slips a lot, but there's stuff I like about this comic. But Michael,
Benjamin,
it was a different time.
It's a different time. Benjamin, are you talking about the same comic I'm talking about? Are you talking about this comic, the multi-Eisner and Harvey Award-winning revolution of Jim Steranko, one of your idols, Benjamin, said, a criminal masterpiece?
Well,
Here's
Jim,
the thing, right? There weren't crime comics, Ben.
You
In
see,
the
so
90s, it was all
that's huge.
superheroes.
That's huge.
Huge.
That in
huge.
itself is huge. That's a big deal. So this is a groundbreaking, and I mean that in the literal sense of the term breaking new ground. This is a
No, you don't.
groundbreaking. Do I not?
No, because
Mix corrected me there.
Yeah, you've misunderstood what literal means. You don't mean in the literal sense of breaking the ground, because that's what you do when you're making a building,
shit.
Ben.
Yes,
you break
sorry.
the ground.
I mean,
you see what I'm saying?
in the
Metaphorically.
etymologically truthful aspect of breaking new ground.
So you're not exaggerating, is what you're saying.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
Terra Nova. This
Okay.
is something new for the comic book industry. And in
Okay.
that sense, Vertigo is the label in the 90s to do this with. Right? Vertigo is coming fresh off the victories of the likes of Hellblazer, of the likes of Sandman, of the likes of even Fables, I think. Oh no, Fables came later. But they're coming fresh off this kind of non-superhero approach to comics. But in order to keep that lauded title, they have to keep breaking new ground. Do you know what I mean? Like, a lot of those comics had run their course. A lot of those comics maybe didn't sell as well anymore. So you have to keep innovating. And I guess there's a huge PR campaign that goes behind Brian Azzarello and Eduardo Risso's 100 Bullets, because it's this new thing. Interestingly, Michael, they are ahead of a wave of early 2000s depictions of American gang culture, in the sense that a few short years later, The Wire would premiere on HBO.
There's a lot of The Wire in this, even though it predates The Wire considerably.
A few short years later, Fast and Furious begins to do the rounds in pop culture.
I already said that. Forget about what Fast and Furious becomes, by the way.
That's irrelevant. Yeah. Fast and Furious 1 and 2 are so central to LA neighborhoods and car culture and everything that came out of that. Now, I say this as a shock, listeners, I know, shock, as a white man. I am not American. I have never been part of these cultures. But my understanding... Go on. Oh, I don't know.
Because I think they're like opposite sides of the American country. I know they're the same to us, as in there's a Hispanic population mixed in with Americans, and they're probably having tacos and stuff. But
oh dear
to
God,
us they're the same. I don't know. Anyway, sorry, go on.
I don't know. Anyway, this is ahead of the curve a little bit.
It was a different time,
but I don't think this is the masterwork that the late 90s comic book machine claims it was.
Okay, so you're saying your main theory on this is that it was big comic that made this so big, not the fact it was at the crest of a wave of popular culture, a change in popular culture, that people were starting to move away from comics being for kids and comics being superheroes and going, you can tell any story in comics.
Yeah, and there is, okay. But there's also, in terms of publication context, Michael, there is also the anthology nature of this. As I said, huge tonal differences in 1 to 3 and 4 and 5. And the way I looked at this is something that would become a staple of the anthology comic is usually you get a very solid short story in 3 issues, and then you get world-building short story in the next 2. If that makes sense. So you're building the broader world in mini vignettes, and I think that's very much what's happening here in 100 Bullets. And then you're telling your little glimpses of the reality of this world in your longer format. We've seen it with Ice Cream Man. We've seen it with...
That was the first one that came to my mind.
Yeah, we've seen it with Ice Cream Man. We've seen it with... I'm trying to think of any other anthology comic. Oh, The Silver Coin. It's a horror anthology. We've seen it with a lot of stuff like that. It's a classic format. 3 and 2 and 3 and 2 and 3 and 2. 3 is really intense, focused story set in the world. And the 2 issues are then building up the broader narrative or mythology backing up your comic. And eventually, those 2 paths collide catastrophically. And we see that a little.
Will they?
Or will they? So let's...
No, they will, because we know. We know they will. We know that's the whole point. But they don't in this. But we know they will.
There's one name that has been missing from our conversation so far, Michael, before we jump into narrative tropes and themes and really take a look at the storylines that are going on here. Eduardo Risso is the artist for this comic. And Eduardo Risso is... his work is... to give him his flowers, his work is instantly recognizable. Eduardo Risso has a remarkably distinct style that you can spot from 100 paces. It
100
is
bullets.
Eduardo Risso at its core. And we've seen him before. We've seen the work of both Brian Azzarello and Eduardo Risso before on collecting issues. We did Moonshine
Have we?
Volume 1. Yeah, Moonshine Volume 1, Michael, back in the day.
Wow. I don't remember that. Was that the
It's
one
a
about
it's
werewolves?
a werewolf in the bayou with Moonshine.
Yeah,
great stuff.
yeah.
And that's a fun comic. And that's what I mean. This is early in Brian Azzarello's career. So it's a little bit rockier, I would imagine. But I tell you what doesn't change at all between those two vast swathes of comic book storytelling. Eduardo Risso's style remains the same. He has this very organic way of drawing humans.
Nipple.
And he bridges the gap between same face syndrome and utterly unique characters in a way that my brain can't work it out, because my brain automatically goes, Eduardo Risso drew that. But his characters are quite distinct from one another unless he is drawing his perception of good-looking people. Which I find really interesting. They're all the same, which I find really interesting. But we'll get into that a little bit later. Eduardo Risso is an Argentine comics artist.
So what you're saying about doing this is his uggos are very distinctive, but he has one good-looking face.
But he does.
I'm just flicking through here. I think you might be right, unfortunately. Very distinctive uggos.
Yeah, this is what stood out to me. So he is also an Eisner Awards winner, but primarily for 100 Bullets. He has illustrated a lot of different things. He did a very interesting Batman run with Azzarello called Batman Broken City, where he grounded a lot of the characters in more realistic settings. Killer Croc.
I've heard that before. I've heard that before, Ben.
Yeah, I've heard that before, Michael. So Eduardo Risso is there. He has a remarkably distinct style. I would say that he has... It is a noir style in the extreme. It is noir storytelling to a T. It's based on those films. Loves a nipple. Loves an ass.
Lots of nipples. Yeah.
A lot of his women look very similar. Loves a pouty lip.
Pouty lip? Yeah. Oh, lots of pouty lip. I tell you what, this isn't a comic book for the Lewis, as I very quickly found out.
Not at all, Michael.
When I opened the first 2 pages and it was lesbian prison.
Yeah. Michael, one of the most awful scenes in the entire comic is Dizzy's end of sentence day. So it is, in some ways, Michael, exactly what you would expect from a comic that has been lauded as this thing as part of the comic machine. You're selling to teenage boys, so what are you going to do? You're going to have a big shower scene in prison.
Scary shower scene.
There's
big,
going to be
terrifying, scary shower scene.
There's going to be a bizarre little lesbian kiss in there. There's going to be some very questionable anatomy played around with. And there's going to be what I have come to define as the trademark Risso grin in the shadow. So Eduardo Risso does a classic comic book thing, which is a full silhouette, but he loves to render a smile and sharp eyes in the silhouettes.
Is that up on there, Ben? Am I holding up the right page?
Oh, yeah, no, that's it. That's it, 100%. And what I find interesting about Eduardo Risso is very good foundations in Eduardo Risso's comic book storytelling. And what I mean by that is he has some beautiful scenes in issue 3 set in a church where Dizzy is having a conversation. And those scenes are straight out of 80s Marvel. We've read it ourselves, Michael, in Daredevil Born Again. It's that heavy Catholic influence, but they're beautifully rendered panels. He does some interesting scenes. There's a shootout scene, or the aftermath of a shootout in one of the scenes, and it's a full room perspective in a trap house somewhere, and everyone's been executed. So he has very good, strong foundations. You can follow his comics very easily. I find his characters to be grotesque. I think that's the intention. I don't think we're supposed to relate to the characters. I find some of them are very interesting. I felt that the characters he creates in issues 4 and 5 were interesting, varied. They are the barflies, essentially. So there's the shootout. And that's got some really interesting comic book basics. He's good at what he does. But I think where he falls down, and I've always felt this about Eduardo Risso, because I read a lot of his comics, is his art around people of color is occasionally dodgy. There are some...
It's a different time, Ben.
Yeah, but Jesus, Michael, Jesus. You could open an Eduardo Risso comic from 1999 or an Eduardo Risso comic from yesterday, and his depictions of Latino men and women has not changed. He has a very set... It's a big forehead. It's a big bubble forehead. Like,
Oh,
Michael,
sorry.
look at
Latino,
those.
you're saying.
No, it doesn't matter. We can go through each one. But his depictions of black people, his depiction of Latinos, they border on minstrel-like depictions. It's very upsetting. And again, Michael, this is something that I think is interesting because neither Brian Azzarello nor Eduardo Risso have experience of LA gang culture. I found out that Brian Azzarello, while we were talking, Michael, is from Cleveland, Ohio.
The center of LA gang culture. Benjamin.
Yeah.
Yes. Look, yeah. There's... It's of a time. Let's put it that way. It is most certainly of a time. And in fact, the kind of short story from the Christmas or the winter special in particular at the end of this is you wouldn't see it these days. Let's just put it that way.
Thankfully.
You wouldn't see it these days. Benjamin, though.
Yeah.
You actually text me. I think you were very polite there. What you text me was, Pedro Rizzo loves uggos. All these characters are such uggos. And he's great at uggos.
I'd say that, but okay. Look, it's a different time. By the way, if you've been enjoying our discussion on this, and you may or may not have been, depending on how you feel about 100 Bullets, but if you've been enjoying this, folks, this is Collecting Issues, the monthly comic book club, where we take a comic every month and we give it a read. And then at the end of the month, we publish an episode on it. We do have a bunch of ways that you can keep in touch with us and read along with us. You can follow us on Instagram. You can follow us on TikTok. You can follow us on Blue Sky. You can follow us pretty much anywhere, folks. We're all over the shop. But the best way to get in touch with Michael or myself and have your say on whether or not things are racially depicted in an awful way is to hop up on the Discord link, which is down below, and come and have a chat with us over there. We talk about comics, we publish what's coming up, we have lots of lovely discussions, and we'd love to hear your votes for what we should be covering over the next couple of months. Our next few months are all lined up. You can enjoy it with us. Next month, we are going to be talking about nothing other than Absolute Martian Manhunter Volume 1, Now, that is a lauded comic, Michael, for a whole different range of reasons, and we'll talk about that next month in February. You're getting this one a little bit late. We should have had this out in January, but I was very slow. So you're getting this one instead in the first week of February, but there'll be more comic books coming to you. We're also going to be doing a little read-in to tie in with another pop culture moment. Ryan Murphy has recently brought The Beauty to Disney+, and that's based on a comic book from Image Comics. So we're going to give that a read during February as well. So if you want to understand more about the comic origins of Ryan Murphy's new hit Disney show, you should tune in during February to have a chat about that. Anyway, those are a few different things that you can do. But also, it's probably important to give the mission statement of Collecting Issues, the monthly comic book club, which is we try to be positive here on Collecting Issues. We're not really interested in tearing things down, but every once in a while we do come across a comic that we can't give such gusto to, and I think this comic was it for me, especially issues 1 to 3. So let's talk about that, Michael. Let's talk about that.
No, let's not, because you know what we've skipped over, Ben? We skipped over the intriguing premise of this whole motherfucking thing.
Oh, it's true. The elevator pitch.
The elevator pitch. The whole exciting thing about this is the very concept of it. So let's very quickly talk about that concept. So Benjamin, you've been wronged.
I have. So many,
You've been
many
wronged
times.
to a really serious degree. Something has ruined your life. Now,
Tuesday.
yeah, whose fault it was, whether you or her should be blamed, we'll never know. But one day, an old man in a suit shows up. Do you like that? I thought you might like that. An old man in a suit shows up, Benjamin, and he says, "Hello, I'm an old man in a suit. I've got a suitcase here. Would you like to see what's in it?" And you say, "Go on, yeah." And he says, "What I've got in here is a gun, 100 bullets, and incontrovertible proof that the person who wronged you. And what is more, these bullets are untraceable.
Yes.
They're not really untraceable. So the elevator pitch is that they're untraceable. That you can go and... What are you doing? Why are you taking a picture?
I'm taking an episode for promo, Michael. Get out of here.
Oh, very
Spin
good.
your wheel.
So the...
That's really
Hello.
upset you, given that you're already on camera.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I forgot. What was I saying? The kind of... The elevator pitch is that the bullets are untraceable. And again, to go back to the context of when this was released in the late 90s, for me, the idea was this almost, maybe was it almost supernatural or something, that like, what if the devil came and said, here's a gun with 100 bullets and you can use them in whatever way you need. And I thought there would be like people going on killing sprees and just killing 100 different people, and maybe someone just loading up a gun and shooting one person 100 times, and you couldn't be caught or punished. But it's not. It's a lot more grounded than that. The 100 bullets are used for the revenge, and they're not magically, mystically untraceable.
No.
But someone seems to have bought every cop in the land off, so that when these bullets or this gun shows up in the system, you're automatically off the hook. So it's a little bit more John Wick in a way.
Yes.
Than supernatural devil shit.
Yes, absolutely. One of the I think actually great that you came up with that, Michael, because it's a very important mechanic within the story. One of the things that I like about it is it's not an infallible system.
No, it's a system. It's not supernatural. It's not a set of hard and fast rules of the universe. We don't know who's put this system in place. And we, in the course of the story, we only kind of meet 3 characters who have an inkling of what's going on.
Yes.
But it's very much a conspiracy or a structure rather than like a horror film premise, say.
John Wick might be the perfect example of the kind of world that we're dealing with here, Michael. There is an overarching structure to the world that regular people are not privy to. But rather than it being everyone's assassins, it's everyone's a dickhead.
Yeah,
and
that's it. That's okay. That's the elevator pitch. So I think we can move on to narrative tropes and theme.
Yeah,
but you're bang on. Everyone in this is a wrong'un.
Yeah, there's no good uns in it so far. We've yet to meet a true innocent from a storytelling point of view, Michael.
I would argue that maybe Timothy Oliphant is the only victim, the only innocent victim of this, and look what becomes of him.
And maybe that's setting out the stall rather early for it, Michael. Maybe Brian Azzarello is making his intention for the story known. But, okay, so let's start with 100 Bullets, issues 1 to 3 of this, centering around Dizzy. Is it Dizzy Cordova? Is that her name?
It could be Cordova. It could be Gonzalez, Benjamin. Just pick a name from the 90s Los Angeles grab bag.
Yeah. Dizzy is actually, that's really interesting. So Speedy or Dizzy, Speedy Gonzalez, Dizzy Cordova. There's something there. Yeah. There's something bad there. Adjective and generic name for a Latino immigrant.
Yeah, it is. It is Cordova. Yeah, it is Cordova. It's Dizzy Cordova.
Yeah. Dizzy Cordova. So Dizzy Cordova went to prison.
Yeah.
Dizzy Cordova was a gangbanger. Dizzy Cordova had lost her husband and child while in prison.
Yeah, I don't know if she was married.
Lost her baby daddy and baby while in prison, and comes out to a world that, number 1, doesn't need her anymore. Number 2, doesn't like her. Number 3 is much bigger than she can fathom. And it's quite a tragic story. So Dizzy, it's a classic the world's moved on while I was locked up story. And she's visited very quickly by Agent Graves.
On the bus.
Yeah, the man in black. There's an interesting interaction she has with a black man who says 16 tray all day. I didn't get that, but maybe I wouldn't understand that reference. I can't remember what it was. It's in the very...
60 tray. I actually don't know what that means.
Yeah, I don't know what that means at all. I think it might be a gang representation thing. I'm not sure. Anyway.
I'll look it up while you spin your wheels.
Dizzy comes out of prison. Dizzy is confronted by Agent Graves, who sets out the premise of 100 bullets. He says, this is a gun, untraceable, with 100 rounds of ammunition, untraceable. And then she says, what do you want me to do with it? Do you want me to kill them? And he said, nope, that's up to you. So it is a very interesting devil's bargain, Michael, in that they give the gun but zero direction after that. So you are essentially handed a magic sword in this setting, but you're not given any kind of quest to go with it. You're given a briefcase full of evidence and something that you can do something about it with and sent out into the world. And I think that's the strength of this series. I think it is a fantastic bit of noir because of this mechanic. And I think the story is let down by other things. I think some of it is Eduardo Risso's art, but I think a lot of it is the dialogue choices that we're given by Brian Azzarello. He just lashes the story with essay and Holmes and brother, and there's so many hammer to the skull uses of what he perceives to be realistic dialogue. And for me, what put me off was the amount of apostrophes and dropped sentences. He's writing in chicken scratch phonetics at certain points, and for me it was such a jarring thing. It doesn't come across as realism to me. It comes across as just, it's almost just racist depiction. Do you know what I mean? It's very difficult to...
It was a different time, Ben.
It was a different time, Michael. Anyway, Dizzy comes out. She meets up with her brother Emilio. She meets up with her old crew. She has converted to Catholicism in prison. She is a born-again Christian of sorts. She believes she's damned. It leads to some very ham-fisted exposition at different points. Like when she says to the jail officer escorting her to the gate, "I'll never be free." And the jail officer's looking at her going, "Okay, all right, you're free today, so that's really beyond my paycheck."
Benjamin.
Yeah.
Benjamin, we need to do Ben's retractions. This is set in Chicago.
Fuck.
Yeah, it's not. I've only realized that upon trying to figure out what 60 tray all day means, because she's stopping at Clark and Lake. So I did a quick check on where's Clark and Lake, and that is a Chicago metro stop.
Oh, fuck.
And then,
well, then
a few pages later, you get this skyline shot, which looks like the Willis Towers to me.
Right, okay,
so
that's
I'm
on me,
pretty
guys.
sure
Sorry.
But it doesn't undermine what you're saying. It doesn't matter if it's L.A., Chicago, Miami. It's still American gang culture through the lens of 1990s media.
I think, interestingly enough, I'd say I've probably been misled there myself by my own perception of America. The color grade is orange, and I've probably been primed to see it that way from various gang movies, because the color grade on a lot of those movies is like a hazy orange.
Chicago would usually be a bluey grey.
Bluey, yeah, exactly. Because you associate, yeah, interesting. Anyway,
that
maybe we can talk about that in another way. But look, this is interesting. It's supposed to be a big... Initially, it's set up, Michael, that it's two corrupt cops who killed her lover and her child. And then it turns out that her brother's a dickhead.
Her brother put the hit out? Yeah.
Yeah. But I think the most egregious scene in that for me is when her mother comes in and chews her out a bit. Her mother makes an appearance in her childhood bedroom, and we know a little bit from context that her mother hates her now because she's turned Jesus. And her mother is a bit of a ride or die, gang culture woman. Just don't be weak, Dizzy. Don't be weak. I'm not going to do the racist Rosie Perez style dialogue that I think.
I promise you would, though, Ben.
I did promise you I would.
That's why I'm here.
But for my future career, and given that everything is clipped these days, no.
Ben's presidential run completely undermined by 1990s Hispanic Rosie Perez impersonation.
And the most egregious bit for me is that it's just a horrible depiction of working class people in America.
But Benjamin, this is what if you asked me what was going on in Hispanic communities in America in the 90s, this is what I would have come up with too.
It was a different time, Michael. It was a different
It's a different time.
I think the subline on this episode is just going to be, it was a different time.
Different time. Benjamin, here's a question for you, right? And I know you're not going to like this. You're not going to like this as a question.
Oh, no.
Is Dizzy sexy? Is she hot?
I think we are supposed to believe yes.
Are we?
But
Okay.
here's the interesting thing, right?
Yeah.
I need to qualify this.
Yeah.
This is very hard.
First
Yeah,
of all,
okay,
because
yeah, go ahead.
it's not a question we ask about every comic book. The only reason I'm asking is the depiction of her in the comic and then the depiction on Bryan Johnson's covers
Very different.
are quite at odds. That's why I ask.
It's interesting. Dizzy in the comic, I think, is supposed to be sexy. She is.
Okay.
She's 23 in the comic, Michael.
Yeah, 23
she
on
views
me.
herself as an over-the-hill woman, which is interesting.
Yeah.
I think that's interesting. We know that because she has a scene where she talks to two other women who were her peers before she went into prison, who are now mothers, and they hate it.
Yeah.
And they are all speaking as though they are 40 and smoking 50 a day and just haggard and useless.
Yeah. First of all, Benjamin, fuck you, first of all, for picking 40 as the age for Over the Hill, you son of a bitch. Just because you were born in...
Michael, you ran a fucking marathon last year. You were the least over the hill member of this podcast. Of the two people on this podcast, one of us is doing a marathon and the other one sits and edits fucking podcasts on his computer all day.
And gets hench. Benjamin, that scene is another scene that's not a particularly friendly depiction of Hispanic women.
No, it's awful. And as I said, Eduardo Risso loves a pouty lip. It's such a complex portrayal. And by complex portrayal, I mean it is relying on racial stereotypes, right? It is relying on media perceptions of different races. And I think Eduardo Risso thinks every woman in his comics is a bit sexy. And we can talk about that again a little bit. And the only way that Eduardo Risso distinguishes whether a woman is attractive or not in his comics is making them fat. And we see that in issues 4 and 5.
Yeah, there's proper old granny ladies, and they're not objects of desire.
And they're not objects, or he makes them tiny and huddled, like in the one shot at the back of it. There's a little old black lady in the back of that. But he loves anterior pelvic tilt. In his comic designs, all the women have their asses out 5 miles and their chest out another 5 miles. And the only difference then is whether they're short or tall.
You've obviously never been in Chicago in the 90s.
Never. Not once, Michael. But come here to me. It's just... She's probably supposed to be sexy. She's probably supposed to be a hot young thing that goes on. But it's very hard to tell ages with Eduardo Risso unless he draws it out specifically. For example, I realize her mother is supposed to be young to signify the baby having culture of this socioeconomic condition.
Yeah,
but it is like her mother's only advice is meet another man and have more babies. Do you know what I mean? And that's bad in itself.
Is it?
I don't know.
Who are you?
Who am I to say to judge these communities? But what I mean is, it's all stereotypes. Is what I'm trying to get at. Yeah.
The cops don't come off too well either. Let's talk about the second story arc. Oh, well, let's talk about how Dizzy's story arc wraps up.
Dizzy's story arc wraps up and she's going to become an agent of Graves, or she's going to become a force of what she deems to be justice, maybe, in this. So she meets the John Constantine-esque character.
In the church.
In appearance only, I think. In the church. And she has a conversation with him and he converts her. So he's Mr. Shepherd. So there's an interesting thing happening there. I don't know if... Because you mentioned the devil earlier, like a devil's bargain. And I think that Mr. Shepherd's introduction is very interesting. First of all, we meet him in a church. And Mr. Shepherd says he's an associate of Graves. And I got the real sense that Brian Azzarello is setting up the devil and Jesus as two sides of this avenging machine that exist, because Shepard exists to clarify what Dizzy should do. And he's a shepherd. He's a guiding light in a way that Graves isn't. Graves is a force of vengeance that just gives you the tool. But Shepard is the one that shapes the direction the bullet goes in, I guess, if you want to look at it from that perspective. So I thought that was interesting. So yeah, we meet them, and then at the end, Dizzy finds out that her brother ordered the hit. She doesn't kill her brother. She does kill the 2 police officers. And then Shepard pulls up in a car, and she says, "Is it over?" And he says, "That's up to you." He gets in the car, and he says, "Good girl." And they drive off into the night. I would assume we see Dizzy Cordova again in 100 Bullets.
At some stage. So the second story is probably less worrying for you because it's about white people. So
it's
kind
still
of
bad.
eliminates... It's still, but it eliminates a lot of your concerns about depictions of other cultures by why? I don't know if Rizzo and Azzarello consider themselves white. But
I don't know.
So it introduces my favorite character, Benjamin. You won't be surprised, Meghan Dietrich.
In a shock to absolutely no one who hosts this podcast, Michael, Meghan Dietrich rises straight to the top of the ranks for you, Michael.
Because, Benjamin, it turns out that in this one, the original perpetrator, and the person who the 100 bullet is intended to be aimed at, is the more important character for the story this time. Which is, it's interesting that in the very first arc, the person who's handed the briefcase and the attaché goes through with it and kills the people who they're directed at. But in the very only in episode 2, the person decides not to use the bullets. I think there's some interesting storytelling decisions there that I think these days in our world of setting up long-term storytelling, we would probably get 2 or 3 variations of people doing it, going through with it, before we got to the first person in questioning, actually, hold on, I don't have to do this. I can put the gun down and walk away.
Yeah. And that would be a groundbreaking moment in the show if we were watching this.
Yeah. If it was, and this is very much that kind of, it's part of the shift, I think, in basically all episodic storytelling to serialization rather than episodic nature. Yeah. Comics, TV shows, everything around the mid-90s started moving away from episodic storytelling to serialized storytelling. Comics might have been a little bit earlier, in fact, but this has a very TV feeling to it.
Yes, absolutely.
And again, the interesting thing is that because the person who isn't killed does the killing, she's still untraceable, but she becomes the kind of then as it turns out, the surprise main character of the story.
Yeah, it's not
the schlubby guy was our introduction to her.
Yeah. And Lee Dolan, I'm gonna say Dolan. We would say Dolan here. Dolan is Dolan. It's an Irish second name.
The Americans probably say Dolan.
Yeah, given that he's a bartender in the States, I'd say he's probably Lee Dolan. But anyway, he has had some very unfortunate luck, Michael. He was an LA restaurateur, I believe.
Chicago, I think.
Okay, probably Chicago again. God damn
no,
it.
I'm joking.
I just don't like Chicago. And he fell on some very hard luck and was accused of dealing in child pornography, or CP.
It's too late now. You've said it 6 or 7 times. We're demonetized on YouTube.
I know. Who cares?
Yeah, just say it.
Come here to me. This is interesting, right? Because it is the early days of the internet in 1999. The dot-com boom is probably in swing, but not in full swing just yet. It probably does embody a strange anxiety of maybe the internet can just ruin me. And you'd be there going, no, that's not really how it works, but okay. And I think maybe how the CP found its way onto his hard drive is also a little bit of a...
It's a cop-out, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's the story.
Yeah.
It's funny because I imagine it's the story that practically everyone who's ever been caught with child pornography hoped would work.
Yeah.
Some cabal, some
Yeah.
shadowy cabal of billionaires put it there.
Yeah. And it was a capricious whim of fate, if you want,
Yeah.
that it happened. And to me, it struck me wholeheartedly like a Black Mirror episode.
Yeah, I can see that.
This
yeah.
felt like Black Mirror. In fact, I think there is a story very similar to this, but the twist in Black Mirror is that he was a big dirty.
He is a
Yeah.
pedophile in Black Mirror. Yeah, that was the twist of that one.
And I think it's an interesting story. So it's a two-parter. We're introduced to Lee in the bar. Graves gives him the devil's bargain, which is the person that ruined your life is coming into the bar this evening. She's going to be here. Here's a gun. Here's the proof. And he then sets up a scramble. But I think what's different is he's not morally conflicted at all until the very end of the story. Initially, he's, I'm shooting her. She's going to die.
Fantasizes about it the minute she walks into the bar.
And the rest of the story is him putting his affairs in order. He reaches out to his son, who doesn't want to speak to him anymore for obvious reasons, because he thinks he's a child pornographer. His wife doesn't speak to him. His daughter doesn't speak to him. And Jerry is his son. He starts doing that. And he's fallen in love with a stripper. And I think, again, Eduardo Risso dispenses with the is she attractive or is she not in this story by showing us big, long-legged women with the same face, different hair color. One's a stripper and one is a shadowy government organization owner.
Yeah, fabulous.
And yeah, so Lee is in love with a stripper. Just because she dances pole, though, that don't make her a hoe, no.
She ain't got no bones in her body, then. She was going to be a celebrity. I was waiting for an opportunity to squeeze that in. I don't know why you said it twice, but you said it in exactly the staccato rhythm of that song.
Yeah. And there's an interesting thing there. She's the stripper with a heart of gold, and he's the down on his luck schlub who also loves her, and they have interesting conversations. But he is setting up... Yeah, he's setting up for a world without him, essentially. He's going to leave her money to get her boobs done, and he's going to leave his son the truth, that his dad wasn't a paedophile, and that's the way it works. And then, I guess what takes the wind out of that is she's much better connected than we're initially led to believe. We're led to believe it's some woman. She dates celebrities. She's a party girl. She's a Paris Hilton-esque character, I guess, if you want, in the first issue of this arc. And in the second issue of the arc, that's not it at all. Meghan Dietrich is a string puller.
An evil, sexy businesswoman.
Yeah. She calls the shots, as it were, Michael. Yeah, there's a very exploitative scene 2 pages after this where she's pouring a drink and she just has her ass stuck out 5 miles and bent over the drinks cart.
I'll find that for you now, Ben. Don't worry.
Thanks. And she gets to him. She gets to Lee and she undermines it and she tells, look at that, Michael, fucking ridiculous. She gets to Lee.
Benjamin,
she worms her way in.
That is how every single evil, sexy businesswoman I've ever met has stood exactly like that.
Against the bar cart. Yeah. And she gets to him, right? So she pours poison in his ear and she erodes his confidence in the decision. She tempts him with money. She can add zeros to your bank account. She can give you a brand new social security number. The rules of the world don't apply to her and she can do what And then I think what's probably the best bit of storytelling in it is her telling why it happened. And she was just like, no, it was just a prank.
We're just doing random.
We're just doing random shit. And there is a very strong sense of fuck the little guy in 100 bullets. And I think that's, if we were to summarize what is being got at, especially in this volume 1, it's fuck the little guy. Fuck the little guy.
Yeah.
They don't matter. They're dirt on our shoe in the grand Machiavellian scheme of the world. And I think that's what's happening here. Exploitative art aside, there is a strong more backbone to this that makes it a very American story. And the shame is that Lee believes her and gives up the gun. And I remember seeing that exact scene and going, what the fuck did you do that for, Lee?
Oh, he's going to get shot in the head now, I reckon.
Stupidest, yeah. And lo and behold, she goes, "You stole the badge. You stole the brooch, didn't you, Mr. Dolan?" And he turns and he goes, "What?" And she shoots him through the head. And that's her excuse, self-defense. He stole from me, and so on and so forth.
But also, she doesn't need the excuse, Ben. It's an untraceable gun and untraceable bullets.
It's an untraceable gun. She can do whatever she likes.
And he doesn't exist.
Yeah, the sad part at the end of it is she deletes his file from whatever magical database of humanity she has. And I think there are moments of magical thinking in this, Michael.
Oh, 100%.
The untraceable gun is good because not everyone will ascribe to the system. So what I mean by that is, if we go back to the first arc, the two corrupt cops don't like that they had to give Dizzy Cordova her gun back. And it bothers them so much that they dig into it. And that's what I like about the mechanic. The mechanic isn't that you are automatically safe for having the gun. The mechanic is you have some level of anonymity to carry this out. But if you're thick about it, it doesn't help you at all. Because Emilio takes the gun off her, the cops take the gun off her, and then she's just dizzy. Like, she doesn't have a weapon anymore.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, because again, to go back to what I said earlier, when I envisaged this story, when I heard about it as a teenager, and it was like this 100 bullets which are untraceable and no one can do anything. Like, you couldn't walk into a shopping, now this is like very modern America, but you couldn't just walk into a shopping mall with this gun and shoot 100 people. Now, you could, and if you were arrested, they'd let you go, but it wouldn't stop the cops from shooting you while you were attempting to do it.
No, definitely not.
Like, I had this vision that, like, it would almost make you invisible to people, or it would make you immune to being noticed or something like that. No, it's not. It's very Wickian. Especially when the brooch is brought in and then she called whoever the mysterious figure is, who for some reason kills a dog just to show us that he's a baddie.
I fucking hated that.
Get out of here. Get out of here.
Because the dog is sitting loyally in the panel. Like, I don't
it's just to show they're a baddie. I don't like killing dogs to show you're a baddie. The only reason I didn't flat out hate it was the dog hadn't been introduced before. It's introduced in one panel and killed in the next one. At least it wasn't someone's pet or something. Anyway, it's not great. It's not a great show.
I'm hoping in issue 6 of 100 Bullets, he'll just be there twiddling a mustache so we really know.
Yeah. And he'll turn his chair around and he'll have a metal claw and you'll be petting a cat.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's anyway, Ben, look, we're towards the end here. Ben.
Yeah.
How have we talked this long and we've not mentioned Sin City?
Yeah, look, this is probably the number one issue here with this. This is groundbreaking comic. It's not. It's Sin City with color and less of a focus on crime and more on ordinary people. But the tone is there. The art style is there. Eduardo Risso is an evolution of early Frank Miller, one way or the other. And early Frank Miller is important there.
You mean before he went mental?
Before
is
he
that
went
what you're suggesting?
But yeah, like, it's... I don't know. This is different in that there's a broader narrative at work there. It's maybe not as gratuitous in some senses, but I see, that's the thing. It's definitely not as gratuitous as Sin City. Sin City is a hyper pastiche of a crime comic, if you want. And it's balls to the wall and very Frank Miller in its own way. That idea of ultra violence and ultra justice, if you want to call it that way. Judge Dredd did it. Batman Returns did it. Not Batman Returns. Dark Knight Returns, is that what it is? Dark Knight Strikes Again? I can't remember. It's one of those ones. But in both of those cases, it's that. And it's the same in Sin City. It's the idea that you have to meet this kind of stuff with extreme violence, and there's only one real justice in the world, and that's putting
street justice.
Street justice. And it's fine. And I think it's unavoidably evolving out of that. I think it does its own thing, maybe with the Grand Shadow Organization. And again, this is volume 1, Michael. We're only getting a hint here.
So, right. Here's the thing then. Benjamin, make the call. Because I know you didn't like this, and I know we prefer to be positive. Yeah, but we can't. If you don't like something, you didn't like this a lot more than I didn't like it. I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it. I found the racist depictions and the kind of anachronistic is the wrong word, but the kind of out of date representations of people, I found them more funny than upsetting. Not funny, look how, but it's just, I can't believe like this was only 25 years ago. So here's the big question. Are you intrigued enough by the Shadow World and the briefcase and Graves and Shepard and what became of Dizzy and who's Dietrich and what are the connections, are you intrigued enough to want to read on to volume 2? Or has the it was a different time nature of it put you so off that you don't really care about the world?
Yeah, so yes is the answer. I will read on. I would read more of this. And I'll give you 2 good reasons for this. First of all, my gut reaction to this comic was incredibly negative. I won't hide that at all.
It was quite funny, actually.
Yeah,
You should see the
I
text
thought,
chain. We can't show the text chain because some of the
But-
words from this comic are in it. And we can't publish some of those words.
That's not allowed. That's my initial gut reaction to this, Michael, was ew. Ew, ew, ew. Ew. It was a different time.
Ew,
it
ew.
truly was. And I think it is exploitative to some degree as a comic. But what I will say is there are glimmers of some great storytelling mechanics in there. The flawed system of the anonymous gun. There is some great story tension in there. I think the second arc is particularly good at world building, but also introducing us to a genuine moral dilemma. Lee Dolan, before going into that room, is going to shoot that woman through the head.
Yeah.
And she drips poison in his ear and turns him around, and he pays the price for that. He gets shot straight through the skull. That's interesting. And I thought there was a lot there. If I was to see that story evolve and the exploitative nature of that story maybe mature a little bit, and maybe we grow out of that initial, this is a gang comic, this is about the mean streets, this is something you've never seen before, this is 100 bullets. If we could get away from that, I think it's probably an interesting comic. Look, this ran for 100 fucking issues, Michael. This went from 1999 to 2009.
Multi-Eisner and Harvey Award-winning
There's got to be
comic,
something.
Ben.
There's got to be something in it. Do you know what I mean? I'm not going to sit here and be like, no, it's an irrelevant guy. I am intrigued. I would like to read more. I'd love to see whoever killed that fucking dog get his comeuppance. I'd like to see Meghan Dietrich get her comeuppance. I thought I couldn't get over the callous revelation that it was a prank. And, you know, that they ruined Lee Dolan's life anonymously, randomly, out of nowhere, on a whim. Has it aged very well? No, it hasn't. But we're in a different time. We've been through The Wire. We've been through The Sopranos. We've come out the other end of television history, Michael. It's a different time. It was a different time. My initial reaction was awful. I don't love it as a comic. I would keep reading to see if it could redeem itself. Yeah.
Very interesting. Okay, we'll see you in a year then, Benjamin, when we've read volume 2.
Yes, but in the meantime, you may want to reset your palate, cleanse it if you will, with a tasty little hot topic in the comic book world at the moment, Absolute Martian Manhunter, Volume 1. From none other than Denise Camp and Eduardo Risso, Javier Rodriguez, featuring the retelling of the origin of the Martian Manhunter in the Absolute Universe. It is a great comic, a very fun read.
This is me shapeshifting, by the way, Ben. I'm not having an episode. I'm shapeshifting like Martian Manhunter.
Michael is shapeshifting. You can see that on YouTube. Speaking of where you can find us, you may be watching this on YouTube. Hit the subscribe button. Go and do that now. You may be listening to us on Acast. You can follow along on Acast and get updated of all our new episodes. You might be listening on Spotify. Go on and follow us on Spotify and give us a review. Let people know if you liked it or not. Also, leave us a comment on any of those particular channels. We're on Instagram, we're on TikTok, we're on Blue Sky. So why don't you head on over there? We have lots of different things, including reading lists, including little glimpses into the comics, including retweets of some of the best comic book art coming out there. We're all about comics on Collecting Issues, the monthly comic book club. So go on and give us a follow in all of those places. This has been our January read, 100 Bullets. Our next one is Absolute Martian Manhunter and the Beauty. So tune in for that in about 2 weeks' time. Go on, off with you there now.
I'm off to put this in the bin. I'm only messing.